The Path of Freedom, Vimutti Magga, of Arahant Upatissa, published by Buddhist Publication Society, Kandy, Sri Lanka. Salutation, homage to the Blessed One, the Consummate One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Chapter 12, on Discerning Truth, Section 2, Fear Knowledge. Thus to that yogin who discerns breaking up, owing to breaking up discernment, knowledge or fear arises. Similes of the man with the sword, poisonous snake, and heap of fire. The cause of the aggregates, the arising of the aggregates, the three planes of becoming, the five kinds of faring on, the seven stations of consciousness, and the nine abodes of sentience, appear to him as fearful as a wicked man who takes up a sword, a poisonous snake, or a heap of fire. Thus, owing to his discernment of breaking up, fear arises. Fear of the cause of aggregation, fear of the arising of aggregation. Thus, considering the three planes of becoming, the five kinds of faring on, the seven stations of intelligence, the nine abodes of sentience as impermanent, he grabs the idea of fear and causes the arising of the signless through tranquility. Attending to ill and fearing birth, he causes the arising of the birthless through tranquility. Attending to not self, he fears the sign of birth and causes the arising of the signless and the birthless through tranquility. He reviews tribulation and repulsion and observes conformable patience. This is the explanation in full. The cause of the arising of fear knowledge has ended. Knowledge of the desire for release. Practicing the knowledge of fear, that yogin produces the knowledge of the desire for release. When he fears the sign of the aggregates, the knowledge of the desire for release arises. When he fears the arising of the aggregates, the knowledge of the desire for release arises. When he fears the three planes of becoming, the five kinds of faring on, the seven stations of intelligence, and the nine abodes of sentience, the knowledge of the desire for release arises. It is like a bird hemmed in by a fire, desiring to escape it, and like a man surrounded by robbers, seeking to get free of them. Thus, if that yogin fears the cause of the aggregates, the coming to be of the aggregates, the three planes of becoming, the five kinds of ill-faring, the seven abodes of consciousness, and the nine abodes of sentience, the knowledge of the desire for release arises. Attending to impermanence, he fears the cause. Attending to ill, he fears birth. Attending to not self, he fears both cause and birth. Then the knowledge of the desire for release arises. Here the commoner and the learner. This is the full explanation. The knowledge of the desire for release has ended. Adaptive knowledge. Practicing the knowledge of the desire for release, that yogin wishes to free himself from all action and attain to nibbana. Wishing to arouse only one sign, he arouses knowledge conformable to the way of escape. Through three ways, adaptive knowledge arises. He transcends the formations through three ways. Reviewing the impermanence of the five aggregates, he attains to adaptive knowledge. The extinction of the five aggregates is permanent nibbana. Reviewing the ill of the five aggregates, he attains to adaptive knowledge. The extinction of the aggregates is blissful nibbana. Thus, he transcends the formations. Reviewing not selfness of the five aggregates, he attains to adaptive knowledge. The extinction of the aggregates is absolute nibbana. He transcends the formations, considering them as impermanent, ill, and not self. Through what knowledge does he transcend the formations, and through what knowledge is transcending of the formations completed? He transcends the formations through adaptive knowledge. The transcending of the formations is completed through path knowledge. What is adaptive knowledge? The knowledge which conforms to the four foundations of mindfulness, the four right efforts, the four bases of supernormal power, the five faculties, the five powers, the seven enlightenment factors, and the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, is called adaptive knowledge. This is the full explanation of adaptive knowledge. Adaptive knowledge has ended. Knowledge of adoption. Adaptive knowledge arises from dwelling upon the characteristics of the formations immediately after. But when he attends taking nibbana as object, he arouses the knowledge of adoption. What is adoption? The passing beyond of commoner states is called adoptive knowledge. And again, the sowing of the seed of nibbana is called adoption. It is as has been stated in the Abhidhamma, the overcoming of birth is named adoption. The victory of non-birth is also named adoption. And again, the overcoming of the cause of birth is adoption. To pass over to non-birth and the signless is named adoption. This is the first turning to nibbana. From without, he produces the wisdom of procedure. This is the full explanation of adoption. The knowledge of adoption has ended. By means of the knowledge of adoption, he knows ill immediately after. He cuts off origin and makes cessation manifest. He practices the path and attains to the path knowledge of stream entrance and all accessories of enlightenment. At this time, the yogin sees the limited, the unconditioned, and the sublime through seclusion. He understands the Four Noble Truths in one moment, in one comprehension, not before or after each other. He understands at once ill, the cutting off of origin, the realization of cessation, and the practice of the path. Thus he understands. It is taught in the simile, in verse thus: by boat one goes with goods leaving this bank, and cutting the stream reaches that. Similes of the boat, lamp, and sun. It is like the crossing in the boat. The four actions occur simultaneously, neither before nor after. The man leaves this bank, cuts the stream, carries the goods, and reaches the further bank. Like the leaving of this bank is the knowledge that understands ill. Like the cutting of the stream is the cutting off of the origin. Like the arrival at the further bank is the realization of cessation. Like the carrying of the goods is the practicing of the path. Or it is like a lamp, which in one moment, neither before nor after, fulfills four functions thus: the burning of the wick, the dispelling of darkness, the consumption of oil, and production of light. And again it is like the sun, which performs four functions simultaneously, neither before nor after. Thus, it makes forms visible, dispels darkness, removes cold, and produces light. Like the making visible of forms, is the knowledge which understands ill, like the dispelling of darkness is the destruction of origin, like the removal of coal is the realization of cessation, like the production of light is the practicing of the path. Thus is the Aryan knowledge compared to the sun. Of the knowledge that understands ill, of the removal of origin, of the realization of cessation, and of the practicing of the path, what are the signs? If the yogin does not understand ill, the four reversals occur, and at that time the yogin sees the limited, the unconditioned, and the element of the sublime through solitude. Through the knowledge that occurs in one moment, he realizes the four truths at the same time, neither before nor after. How should these be understood? By means of the knowledge of arising and falling away, he cannot comprehend the flood of ill and the tribulation of the formations as they truly are. He practices on the sign which does not belong to the formations, and he passes over to that which is not formation. Thus he sees of tribulations of the formations as they are, through causing the mind to practice on the sign belonging to the formations, and passes over to that which is not formations. Here he comprehends the flood of ill and reaches the end. And again it is said that, if that is so, he should be able to discern the truth through the solitude and the knowledge of adoption. The knowledge of adoption arises from the formations and passes over that which is non-formation. When the knowledge of adoption which arises from the sign of the formations passes over to that which is non-formation, he can attain to Nibbana. Intentness on the cause is his only object. Through intentness on the object, he can develop concentration of mind. When he gets concentration, he produces serenity and insight, and also can fulfill the enlightenment accessories. Thereby, he understands the truth through the knowledge of adoption. From that knowledge of adoption, the knowledge of the path is produced immediately. At that time, he can get the concentration of Nibbana. His mind attains to concentration and develops serenity and insight and the enlightenment accessories. Therefore, it is only through the knowledge of the path that one can discern the truth. Simile of the burning city. It is like a man stepping across the threshold of the gate of a burning city. When he has placed 1 foot outside the city, he is not yet entirely outside the city. Thus, at that time, the knowledge of adoption arises from that object of the formations and passes over to that which is non-formation. But here, it cannot be said that he has done with the defilements, because many states are yet not perfected. Just as when the man places both his feet outside the threshold of the gate of the burning city, it can be said that he is out of the burning city. Just so, when the knowledge of adoption arouses the knowledge of the path without end, it could be said that one has gone out of the walled city of the defilements, because the states are complete. Therefore, through the knowledge of adoption, one fulfills the discernment of truth. What is meant by discernment? The Four Noble Truths occur in one moment. This is understanding. Here, path knowledge and the balance of the faculties means equilibrium. The powers mean immovability. The enlightenment factors mean vehicle. The factors of the Eightfold Path means cause. The foundations of mindfulness mean dwelling. The right efforts mean distinction. The basis of supernormal power means contrivance. Truth means truth. Serenity means non-disturbance. Insight means vision. The twofold means non-separation. The purity of virtue means shielding. The purity of thought means non-excitement. The purity of views means seeing. Skill in wisdom means shedding. Illumination of indifference means pervading everywhere. The faculty of the knowledge of extinction means complete slouching. Uniformity of attention means the development of regenerate desire. Renunciation means the extinction of contact and feeling. Concentration means the setting up in front. Mindfulness means shelter. Wisdom means truth. The sublime means supreme distinction. Nibbana means ultimate rest. Three fetters. Thus that yogin knows presently, sees presently, and cuts off the three fetters of self-illusion, uncertainty, addiction to rites and ceremonies, and the defilements standing in that place. What is self-illusion? Here seeing form, the uninstructed common things. This is the self. The self is form. Form is the abode of the self. In form there is the self. Thus in the same way he thinks of feeling, perception, the formations of consciousness thus. Consciousness is the self. The self is consciousness. Consciousness is the abode of the self. In consciousness is the self. This is called self-illusion. This self is cut off, and thereby 62 views, beginning with self-illusion, are also cut off. What is uncertainty? Uncertainty regarding ill, origin, cessation, the path, the Buddha, the law, the community of bhikkhus, the beginning, the end, and the beginning and the end, or uncertainty concerning the doctrine of cause and condition, is called uncertainty. This is cut off. What is addiction to rites and ceremonies? There are two kinds in addiction to rites and ceremonies. They are addiction due to craving and addiction due to delusion. Here one thinks thus: through this vow, through this conduct, through this painful practice, and through this holiness, I shall be reborn in heaven, or I shall be reborn in every heaven. This is called addiction to rites and ceremonies due to craving. Here a recluse or a Brahmin thinks, through this virtue, through this purity, and the action of purity of virtue, I shall be reborn, etc. This is called addiction to rites and ceremonies due to delusion. This is also cut off. What are the defilements standing in that place? Sense desire, hate, and infatuation, which cause ill-faring, are called the defilements standing in that place. These are also cut down. At this time, one realizes the fruit of stream entrance. If a man has not yet attained to the stage of a stream entrant, he dwells in the stream entrance place of departure, or the eighth place, or else in the ground of vision or concentration, or in the wisdom procedure which arises from both. This is a full explanation of the knowledge of the path of stream entrance. Immediately after, the stream entrant cuts off the three fetters. Therefore, his object is unconditioned. The method, which is not different from the path in other states, arouses the fruitional knowledge and the fruitional consciousness of the stream entrant. Having seen the path, fruit, and nibbana, He cuts off the defilements and sees the remaining defilements. This is stream entrance, non-retrogression. This is to be born of the breast of the Blessed One. This is to be born of the mouth of the Blessed One. This is the Dhamma that is born of Dhamma. This is the getting off the limbs of Dhamma. It is separation from all things. It is called the good cause endowed with vision. It is called familiarity with the noble doctrine. It is a dwelling at the threshold of the sublime. Here perfecting his vision, he sees the good law. After seeing the good law, he fulfills knowledge. If his knowledge is fulfilled, he enters the stream of the noble doctrine and becomes familiar with wisdom, and opening the gate of the sublime, he dwells within it. Therefore, it is said in the verse thus, "Royal is that one who wins the stream. A king of Deva realms is he, a ruler of all worlds that be, for fruit of stream is verily supreme." One's returner, dwelling in this stage, that yogin endeavors further, wishing to obtain the fruit of one's return, and he sees birth, destruction, and the rest. As explained above, he sees. He develops in the way through which he saw the path, depending on the faculties, the powers, and enlightenment intellection. He discerns the truth. Thus he practices and goes towards cessation. He cuts off coarse passion and hatred and the defilements standing in that place. By this path, he gains the fruit of one's returner immediately. Non-returner. Dwelling in this stage, he endeavors further, wishing to obtain the fruit of non-return, and sees birth, destruction, and the rest. As explained above, he sees. He develops in the way through which he saw the path. Depending on the faculties, the powers, and enlightenment intellection, he understands the truth and goes towards cessation. He cuts off fine passion and hate and the defilements standing in that place. By this path he gains the fruit of non-return immediately. Saintship. Dwelling in this stage, he endeavors further, wishing to obtain the fruit of saintship and sees birth, destruction, and the others. As explained above, he sees. He develops in the same way by which he saw the path. Depending on the faculties, the powers, and enlightenment intellection, he discerns the truth. Thus he cuts off desire for the form and the formless, and he cuts off conceit, agitation, ignorance, and all other defilements without remainder. Thereafter, that yogin gains the fruit of saintship. He sees the path, he sees the fruit of enlightenment, and he sees the extirpation of the defilements. Thus that bhikshu becomes a consummate one, eradicates the cankers, does what there is to do, lays down the burden, attains to the goal, removes the fetters, knows liberation, is separate from the five, and endowed with the six factors, and attains to security. He is not fettered by death, removes cessation associated with other false truths, believes in and looks for the stainless, attends to the coming of the bodily formations, and gains the highest guerdon. He is called one who has removed hatred, one who has won the further shore, one who has broken free of the defilements, one who is without fetters and hindrances, possessor of Aryan wings, remover of the burden, the disassociated one, recluse, Brahmana, the purified one, knower of the law, highest Brahmin, consummate one who has attained knowledge, has slouched off, conqueror, the man tranquilized who arouses tranquility. This is the full explanation of consummate one. Three kinds of stream entrance. Here, if a stream entrant does not endeavor further in this life, he falls into one of the three classes. The three classes of stream entrants are Ekabijin, one seeder; Sata Katuparama, one who will be born 7 times at most; Kolan Kola, one who will be born in good families. Sata Katuparama is of weak faculty, Kolan Kola is of middling faculty, and Ekabijin is of kin faculty. Sata Katuparama, after dwelling in divine realms for 6 births, he, in his 7th birth, is born here and makes an end of ill. Kolan Kola, he is born in a good family 3 or 4 times and makes an end of ill. Ekabijin, with 1 more birth as a man, he makes an end of ill. If a once returner does not make further endeavor in this life, he returns to this world once more and makes an end of ill. 5 kinds of non-returner. If a non-returner makes no further endeavor in this life, he'll be reborn in a pure abode. According to the difference of faculties, there are 5 kinds of non-returners. Antara Paranibayin, Upahacha Paranibayin, Asankara Paranibayin, Sasankara Paranibayin, Udang Sota Akanitya Gamin. Here, he who makes the Aryan path manifest in order to remove the remaining fetters and latencies and passes away without reaching the middle of his lifespan is Antara Paranibayin. Here, he who makes the Aryan path manifest in order to remove the remaining fetters and latencies and passes away after reaching the middle of his lifespan is Upahacha Paranibayin. He who makes the Aryan path manifest in order to remove the remaining fetters and latencies without external stimulus is Asankara Paranibayin. He who makes the Aryan path manifest in order to remove the remaining fetters and latencies with external stimulus is Sasankara Paranibayin. From Aviha, he goes to Atapa. From Atapa, he goes to Sudasa. From Sudasa, he goes to Sudasi. From Sudasi, he goes to Akanitya. In Akanitya, he makes the Aryan path manifest in order to remove the remaining fetters and latencies and passes away. This is the Udang Sota Akanitya Gamin. The lifespan of Aviha is 10,000 aeons. In Atapa, 20,000. In Sudasa, 40,000. In Sudasi, 80,000. And in Akanitya, 160,000. In each of the 4 spheres there are 5 persons, and in the Akanika 4. There the upstream goer is not, thus there are 24 persons. The consummate one has removed all defilements, no more has he. Therefore, there is no cause of future birth in him. Because he has no cause, he is free from becoming. He destroys the formations. He cuts off ill. He stirs up no more ill. This verily is the end of ill. Therefore, it is taught in the stanza thus. Simile of the fiery sparks. As when the smith beats red-hot iron to shape, sparks fly, fall into water, and then cease. So is his ending wrought in sequence true, and of his faring on there is no trace. Escaping thus, and breaking himself loose from lust, entangled and corruption space, he gains the blissful state, immovable, and of his faring on there is no trace. Miscellaneous teachings. The following are the miscellaneous teachings here: insight, initial application of thought, joy, feeling, plane, faculty, emancipation, defilements, 2 attainments in concentration. serenity and insight. Insight is of two kinds, namely, of the method of serenity and of bare insight. What is insight by way of serenity? Having acquired concentration, one overcomes the hindrances by concentration strength, and one understands form after one penetrates name by way of the factors of meditation, jhana. Here, beginning with concentration, one proceeds to insight. Bare insight. One overcomes the hindrances through understanding strength. One discerns name after form has been penetrated by way of the bodily formations. Beginning with insight, he develops serenity. Initial application of thought and bare insight. Bare insight is with initial application of thought. In the first meditation, jhana, the path and the fruit of insight are with initial application of thought. In the third meditation, jhana, insight and adoption are with initial application of thought, and the path and the fruit are without initial application of thought. The path in the plane of initial application of thought fulfills the 8 factors of the path. In the plane that is without initial application of thought, 7 factors remove consideration. Joy. At first, the bare insight worker experiences the suffering of the formations. Through adaptive knowledge of insight, he fulfills non-suffering and develops adoption. The path and the fruit bring about joy together. Then the bare insight worker gains perfection of the ease of the formations. In the second meditation, jhana, insight and the path and fruit bring about joy. In the third and the fourth meditations, jhanas, insight, path and fruit brings about joy. In the path and the fruit of the plane of joy, the 7 enlightenment factors arise. The 6 kinds of enlightenment in the plane of non-joy remove the enlightenment initial application of thought, that is joy. Feeling. At first, the bare insight worker experiences the suffering of the formations. Insight and adaptive knowledge bring about equanimity. Adoption, the path and the fruit bring about joy. Then the bare insight worker gains perfection of the ease of the formations. In the third meditation, jhana, insight, the path and the fruit bring about joy. In the fourth meditation, jhana, insight, the path and the fruit bring about equanimity. Plane. There are 2 kinds of planes, plane of seeing and plane of volition. Here the path of stream entrance is a plane of seeing. The other 3 paths and the 4 fruits of the recluse are the plane of volition. Not having seen before, one sees now. This is the plane of seeing. One sees thus and attends to it. This is called the plane of volition. And again there are 2 planes, the plane of the learner and the plane of the learning ender. Here the 4 paths and the 3 fruits of the recluse are of the plane of learner. Arahantship is learning ender's plane. Faculties. There are 3 supramundine faculties, namely, the faculty which assures knowledge of the unknown, the faculty of perfect knowability, and the faculty of him who has known. Here the knowledge of the stream winner's path is called the faculty which assures knowledge of the unknown. The knowledge of the 3 other paths and of the first 3 fruits is called the faculty of perfect knowability. The faculty of him who has known belongs to the plane of fruition of the saint. One who knows all dharmas without remainder is possessed of the faculty of him who has known. The 3 emancipations. Here there are 3 kinds, namely, the signless emancipation, the unhankered emancipation, and the void emancipation. Here the absence of the sign in the adoption knowledge of the path is a signless emancipation. The absence of hankering is unhankered emancipation. The absence of attachment is void emancipation. And again, these three emancipations fulfill different paths through penetration, and they fulfill one path through attainment. How do these fulfill different paths through penetration? Through impermanence penetration, the signless emancipation is fulfilled. Through ill penetration, the unhankered emancipation is fulfilled. Through not-self penetration, void emancipation is fulfilled. How is the signless emancipation fulfilled through impermanence penetration? Attention to impermanence destroys the formations and emancipates the mind in many ways. Thus faith and the other four faculties are God, and the knowledge of the thus-isness of the sign makes manifest the impermanence of all compounded things, arouses fear of the sign of the formations, and, through proceeding in the signless, surpasses the sign through the emancipation that is without sign, and the release from the aggregates takes place. Thus the signless emancipation is fulfilled through impermanence penetration. How is the unhankered emancipation fulfilled? Through ill penetration. Attention to ill develops fear towards the formations and emancipates the mind in many ways. Thus concentration and the four other faculties are God, and the knowledge of the thus-isness of birth makes manifest the ill of all compounded things, arouses fear towards birth, gains a knowledge of birth, and proceeding in the birthless, surpasses birth through the emancipation that is without hankering, and the release from the aggregates takes place. Thus the unhankered emancipation is fulfilled through ill penetration. How is the void emancipation fulfilled? Through not-self penetration. Attention to not-self makes manifest the voidness of the formations and stirs up aversion for them. Thus wisdom and the four other faculties are God, and the knowledge of the thus-isness of the faculties and of birth make manifest the not-self of all compounded things, liberating itself from the sign and birth. The mind, proceeding along the signless, the birthless, goes beyond to breaking up and nibbana, through the emancipation that is void, and the release from the aggregates takes place. Thus through not self-penetration, the void emancipation is fulfilled. Thus do these three emancipations fulfill different paths through penetration. How do these three emancipations fulfill one path through penetration? With the signless emancipation, three emancipations are gained. Owing to the signless, there is emancipation of the mind. Although emancipation is gained, there is hankering left, yet therefore unhankered emancipation is won. Thus the three emancipations are fulfilled. Through attention to impermanence, etc., emancipation of the mind is gained. Through emancipation from the sign and attachment, void emancipation is won, and the three emancipations are fulfilled. Because if emancipation from attachment is fulfilled, it also is emancipation due to attention to the sign. Thus, after attaining to the three emancipations, the one path is fulfilled. Emancipation and the entrance into it. What is the difference between emancipation and the entrance into emancipation? The freedom from the defilements that cloud path knowledge is emancipation. The entry into the sublime way is entrance into emancipation. Again, emancipation is only path knowledge. Its object is nibbana. It's called the entering into emancipation. 134 defilements. There are 134 defilements. They are the three immoral roots. the 3 kinds of seeking, the 4 cankers, the 4 knots, the 4 floods, the 4 yokes, the 4 clingings, the 4 wrong causes of action, the 5 kinds of meanness, the 5 hindrances, the 6 roots of contention, the 7 latencies, the 8 worldly conditions, the 9 conceits, the 10 defilements, the 10 causes of immoral action, the 10 fetters, the 10 errors, the 12 reversals, the 12 risings of immoral consciousness. 3 immoral roots. Here the 3 immoral roots are lust, hatred, and delusion. Of these 3, hatred is thin in 2 paths. It perishes without remainder in the path of non-return. Lust and delusion are thin in 3 paths. They perish without remainder in the path of saintship. The 3 kinds of seeking. The 3 kinds of seeking are the seeking for pleasure, for existence, and for holiness. Of these 3, the seeking for holiness is destroyed without remainder in the path of stream entrance. The seeking for pleasure is destroyed in the path of non-return, and the seeking for existence is destroyed in the path of saintship. The 4 corruptions. The 4 cankers are the canker of lust, of becoming, of views, and of ignorance. Here the canker of views is destroyed through the path of stream entrance. The canker of lust is destroyed through the path of non-return. The cankers of becoming and ignorance are destroyed through the path of saintship. The 4 knots. The 4 knots are the knot of the group of covetousness, the knot of the group of ill will, the knot of the group of addiction to rites and ceremonies, and the knot of the group of the obsession that this is the truth. Here the knots of the group of addiction to rites and ceremonies and the knot of the group of the obsession that this is the truth are cut through the path of stream entrance. The knot of the group of ill will is cut through the path of non-return. The knot of the group of covetousness is cut through the path of saintship. The 4 floods. The 4 floods are the flood of lust, the flood of becoming, the flood of views, and the flood of ignorance. The 4 yokes. The 4 yokes are the yoke of lust, the yoke of becoming, the yoke of views, and the yoke of ignorance. These are destroyed as it was taught before. The 4 clingings. The 4 clingings are the clinging of lust, of views, of addiction to rites and ceremonies, and of the theory of self. Here 3 clingings are destroyed in the path of stream entrance. The clinging of lust is destroyed in the path of saintship. The 4 wrong causes of action. The 4 wrong causes of action are the wrong cause of action of desire, the wrong cause of action of anger, the wrong cause of action of fear, and the wrong cause of action of delusion. These 4 are cut in the path of stream entrance. The 5 kinds of meanness. The 5 kinds of meanness are, namely, meanness as to dwelling, family, gain, color, and doctrine. These 5 are destroyed through the path of non-return. The 5 hindrances. The 5 hindrances are sense desire, ill will, rigidity and torpor, agitation and anxiety, and uncertainty. Here uncertainty is destroyed through the path of stream entrance. Sense desire, ill will, and anxiety are destroyed through the path of non-return. Rigidity and agitation are destroyed through the path of saintship. Torpor goes together with the form. The 6 roots of contention. The 6 roots of contention are quarrelsomeness, envy, jealousy, craft, evil desires, and infection of views. Here craft, evil desires, and infection of views are destroyed in the path of stream entrance. Quarrelsomeness, envy, and jealousy are destroyed through the path of non-return. The 7 latencies. The 7 latencies are the latency of sense desire, the latency of anger, the latency of conceit, the latency of views, the latency of uncertainty, the latency of the desire for becoming, and the latency of ignorance. Here the latencies of views and uncertainty are destroyed through the path of stream entrance. The latency of sense desire and the latency of anger are destroyed through the path of non-return. The latency of conceit, the latency of desire for becoming, and the latency of ignorance are destroyed through the path of saintship. The 8 worldly conditions. The 8 worldly conditions are gain and loss, disgrace, fame, praise, blame, pain, and pleasure. Here the resentment produced by the 4 kinds of places one dislikes is destroyed through the path of non-return. The inclination for the 4 kinds of places one likes is destroyed through the path of saintship. The 9 conceits. One produces the conceit, I am superior to others who are superior, or one produces the conceit, I am equal to the superior ones, or one produces the conceit, I am inferior to the superior ones, or one produces the conceit, I am superior to others who are like me, or one produces the conceit, I am inferior to others who are like me, or one produces the conceit, I am superior to those who are inferior, or one produces the conceit, I am equal to those who are inferior, or one produces the conceit, I am inferior to others who are inferior. These 9 conceits are destroyed through the path of saintship. The 10 defilements. The 10 defilements are greed, hatred, delusion, conceit, views, uncertainty, rigidity, agitation, immodesty, indecorum. Here views and uncertainty are destroyed through the path of stream entrance. Hatred is destroyed through the path of non-return. The other 7 are destroyed through the path of saintship. And again, there are these 10 defilements. Here one thinks, this man opposed me, opposes me, will oppose me. Or one thinks, this man opposed those who are dear to me, is opposing them, will oppose them. Or he thinks, this man supported my enemy, is supporting him, will support him. And he produces what is improper. These 10 defilements are destroyed by the path of non-return. The 10 causes of unskillful actions. The 10 causes of unskillful actions are taking the life of beings, taking what is not given, fornication, lying, slanderous talk, harsh talk, frivolous talk, covetousness, ill will, wrong views. Here the taking of life, of what is not given, fornication, lying, and wrong views are destroyed by the path of stream entrance. Slanderous talk, harsh talk, ill will are destroyed by the path of non-return. Frivolous talk and covetousness are destroyed by the path of saintship. The 10 fetters. The 10 fetters are sensuous desire, ill will, conceit, self-illusion, uncertainty, addiction to rites and ceremonies, desire for existence, envy, avarice, and ignorance. Here self-illusion, uncertainty, addiction to rites and ceremonies are destroyed through the path of stream entrance. Sensuous desire, ill will, envy, and avarice are destroyed through the path of non-return. Conceit, desire for existence, and ignorance are destroyed through the path of saintship. The 10 errors. The 10 errors are wrong view, wrong thought, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong exertion, wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration, wrong knowledge, wrong emancipation. Here wrong view, wrong speech in the sense of lying, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong knowledge, and wrong emancipation are destroyed through the path of stream entrance. Wrong thought, wrong speech in the sense of slanderous talk and harsh talk are destroyed by the path of non-return. Wrong speech in the sense of frivolous talk, wrong exertion, wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration are destroyed through the path of saintship. The 12 reversals. The 12 reversals are perception reversal, thought reversal, and view reversal, by which one regards the impermanent as permanent, the ill as well, the foul as fair, and the not-self as self. Here the 3 reversals by which one regards the impermanent as permanent, the 3 reversals by which one regards the not-self as self, the reversal of view by which one regards the foul as fair, and the reversal of view by which one regards ill as well, are destroyed through the path of stream entrance. The reversal of perception and the reversal of thought, by which one regards the foul as fair, are destroyed through the path of non-return. The reversal of perception and the reversal of thought, by which one regards ill as well, are destroyed by the path of saintship. The 12 arisings of unskillful thought. The 12 arisings of unskillful consciousness are arisings of consciousness without external stimulus, and arisings of consciousness with external stimulus, associated with views and accompanied by joy. Arisings of consciousness without external stimulus, and arisings of consciousness with external stimulus, not associated with views and accompanied by joy. Arisings of consciousness without external stimulus, and arising of consciousness with external stimulus, associated with views and accompanied by indifference. Arisings of consciousness without external stimulus, and arising of consciousness with external stimulus, not associated with views and accompanied by indifference. Arisings of consciousness without external stimulus, and arisings of consciousness with external stimulus, associated with hatred and accompanied by grief. Arisings of consciousness accompanied by excitement, and arisings of consciousness accompanied by uncertainty. Here the 4 arisings of consciousness associated with views and arisings of consciousness accompanied by uncertainty are destroyed through the path of stream entrance. The 2 arisings of consciousness which are accompanied by grief are thinned out in 2 paths and destroyed without remainder through the path of non-return. The 4 arisings of consciousness not associated with views and the arising of consciousness accompanied by excitement are thinned out in the 3 paths and are destroyed without remainder through the path of saintship. The 2 enjoyments. There are 2 enjoyments. They are the enjoyment of the essence of the fruit and the enjoyment of the attainment of dissolution, which the commoner cannot acquire. What is the enjoyment of the fruit? Why is it called enjoyment? Who enter upon it? How does one emerge? Why does one enter upon it? How does one enter upon it? How does one attain? Through how many conditions is it fulfilled? Conditioned by what does it stand? What conditions cause it to arise? Is this enjoyment mundane or supramundine? Enjoyment of the fruit. What is the enjoyment of the fruit? This is recluse fruit. It is the pacification of the mind in Nibbana. This is called enjoyment of the fruit. Why is it called enjoyment of the fruit? Because it is the effect of the supramundine path, which is neither skillful nor unskillful. It is not an object. This is enjoyment of the fruit. Here the consummate one and the non-returner enter this concentration. A second point of view. Again, there is another teaching. All noble ones can develop it as taught in the Abhidhamma thus. For the sake of attaining the path of stream entrance, it overcomes upspringing. This is called adoption. In the same way, the others should be understood. A third point of view. Again, it is said, only those noble ones who have extirpated the cankers attain to this concentration. It is as has been stated in the utterance, of the Venerable Elder Narada to the Bhikshus, Venerable says, "It is as if in a forest mound there were a well with no rope beside it for drawing water. A man sore-stricken by the heat of the sun, thirsty and tired, coming there, would merely see the water without reaching it. Even so am I, Venerable Sirs. I know well that the destruction of becoming is Nibbana, but I'm not a consummate one, because I've not yet done with the cankers." The signless concentration of mind. Why is it entered upon? Having seen the law, one enters upon it for the sake of dwelling in bliss, as the Blessed One declared to the Venerable Elder Ananda. At this time, Ananda, the Tathagata does not attend to any sign. He destroys sensation only and dwells developing the concentration of signless consciousness. At this time, Ananda, the body of the Tathagata, is at peace. How does one enter upon it? If that yogin wishes to get the enjoyment of fruition, he enters into a place of solitude, views the formations by way of rise and fall, and proceeds to adoptive knowledge. Adoptive knowledge brings the enjoyment of the fruition of Nibbana immediately. The fruition that arises is of that meditation, jhana, by which he attains to the path. This is called the enjoyment of fruition. How does one attain? The unconditioned element of the sublime is attended to through tranquility. Through how many conditions is it fulfilled? Conditioned by what does it stand? Through what conditions does one emerge? The yogin enjoys it through two conditions, the non-attending to all signs and the attending to the element of the signless. Three other conditions of persistence: non-attention to all signs, attention to the signless element, previous preparation. Two other conditions of emergence: attention to all signs and non-attention to the signless element. Is this enjoyment mundane or supramundine? This enjoyment is supramundine and not mundane. The non-returner experiences the enjoyment of fruition. Why does not adoption develop the path of saintship immediately? Because it does not reach the vision of insight, and that which is present is of little strength. The enjoyment of fruition has ended. The enjoyment of the dissolution of perception and sensation. What is the enjoyment of the dissolution of perception and sensation? Who enter upon it? Through the fulfillment of how many kinds of strength is it entered upon? Through the tranquilizing of how many activities is it entered upon? What are the preliminary duties? How is it entered upon? How does it persist? How does the mind emerge from it? Towards what is the mind inclined? By how many kinds of contact is it experienced? What are the activities aroused at first? What is the difference between a dead man and a man who enters into the concentration of the dissolution of perception and sensation? Is this concentration conditioned or unconditioned? The not proceeding of states of mind and mental properties. This is called the concentration of the dissolution of perception and sensation. The not proceeding of states of mind and mental properties. This is called the concentration of the dissolution of perception and sensation. Who enters upon it? The consummate one and the non-returner enter upon this attainment. Who do not enter upon it? The commoner, the stream entrant, the once returner, and he who is born in a formless element. Here the commoner cannot enter upon it, because he is not of that plane. The stream entrant and the once returner cannot, because they have not yet cut off the bondage of the defilements. He who enters the formless element cannot, because it is not its plane. Through the fulfillment of how many kinds of strength is it entered upon? It is entered upon through the fulfillment of two kinds of strength, serenity strength and insight strength. Here serenity means mastery gained in the 8 attainments. Insight means mastery gained in the 7 insights, namely impermanence reviewing, ill reviewing, not self-reviewing, repulsion reviewing, dispassion reviewing, cessation reviewing, abandonment reviewing. Serenity strength develops the factors of the meditation, jhana, of dissolution, and develops immovable emancipation. Through insight strength, one is able to see the tribulations of birth and acquire the freedom of the unborn. Through tranquilizing, how many activities is it entered upon? One attains to concentration through the tranquilizing of 3 activities. They are verbal formations, bodily formations, and thought formations. Here entering into the 2nd meditation, jhana, one tranquilizes the verbal formations of initial and sustained application of thought. Entering into the 4th meditation, jhana, one tranquilizes the bodily formations of inhalation and exhalation. Entering into the concentration of the dissolution of perception and sensation, one removes the thought formations of perception and sensation. What are the preliminary duties? There are 4 preliminary duties: non-destruction of others' property, discerning the time, non-disturbance, honoring the community of bhikshus. He resolves as regards bowl, rope, and other requisites. He resolves as regards non-disturbance of his body in every way. He reflects on the strength of his body and resolves after discerning the time. Here he should consider the remote past. Discerning that it is not the time for the meeting of the community of bhikkhus, he sits and resolves, I shall emerge when I am called. And here the non-destruction of others' property is for the sake of protecting the robes of others. The 2nd and 3rd are for the sake of protecting the body. The 4th is for the sake of non-obstructing the meeting of the community of bhikkhus. Thus attaining to the sphere of nothingness and emerging therefrom, he performs the preliminary duties and enters the 1st meditation, jhana. Why is it developed? For the sake of happiness in the present. This is the noble individual's last immovable concentration. And again for the sake of supernormal magical power, one enters the whole range of concentration like the Arahant Sanjiva. It is entered also for the sake of protecting the body, as in the case of Venerable Elder Shariputta, and in the case of the Venerable Elder Tissa, the son of the snowy heron. How is it entered upon? That yogin enters into a solitary dwelling and sitting down or lying down enjoys the consciousness of dissolution. He enters the 1st meditation, jhana, and merging from it peacefully, sees impermanence, ill, and not self of that meditation, jhana, immediately. Possessed of the knowledge of equanimity towards the formations, he enters into the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th meditation, jhanas, the sphere of the infinity of space, the sphere of the infinity of consciousness, and the sphere of nothingness. Then emerging therefrom peacefully, he sees the impermanence, ill, and not self of right concentration immediately, and being possessed of the knowledge of equanimity towards the formations, He enters into the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception immediately. Then passing beyond 2 or 3 turns of consciousness, he causes the perishing of mind and enters into the unborn and the unmanifest. This is called the entry into the attainment of the dissolution of perception and sensation. How does one persist? Here one does not consider thus, I shall emerge. In the performance of the preliminary duties one discerns. How does the mind emerge from it? The non-returner emerges on the attainment of the fruit of non-returning. The consummate one emerges on the attainment of the fruit of saintship. Towards what is the mind inclined? The mind inclined towards peace only. By how many kinds of contact is it experienced? Through 3 contacts, namely, the contact of the void, the signless, and the unhankered after. Through what formations does he emerge? With his bodily formations and his verbal formations. What is the difference between a dead man and a man who enters into the attainment of the dissolution of perception and sensation? In the dead man, not only are 3 formations stilled, but vitality is cut off, heat is cut off, the faculties are cut off. In a man who has entered the attainment of the dissolution of perception and sensation, although the 3 formations are still, vitality, heat, and the faculties are not cut off. This is the difference. Is this attainment conditioned or unconditioned? One should not say that this attainment is conditioned or unconditioned. Why should it not be said that his attainment is conditioned or unconditioned? There is no put-together state in this attainment. The entry into and exit from the unconditioned state cannot be known. Therefore, it cannot be said that this attainment is conditioned or unconditioned. The attainment of the concentration of dissolution has ended. The 12th facet of the path of freedom has ended. Here the chapters are as follows. Introductory discourse on distinguishing virtue, on austerities, on distinguishing concentration, on approaching a good friend, the distinguishing of behavior, the distinguishing of subjects of meditation, entrance into the subjects of meditation, 5 kinds of higher knowledge, on distinguishing wisdom, the 5 methods, the discernment of truth. Thus is the sequence of the 12 chapters in the path of freedom. Vast, boundless, past all thought and praise are the good words and knowledge set forth here, and none but the yogin knows and grasps the essence of the doctrine full and clear. Best is this path for skillful deeds, for it away from ignorance does steer.